Hey everyone, and welcome back to the DC Films Podcast. This is a little bit of a different episode. So this episode, because everyone in their schedules are so hectic and everything, I want to take the time to highlight everyone who's seeing Aquaman before its release. So like last week in our episode, we had RTM kind of give his thoughts on Aquaman. This week, I want to focus on Fatma and her thoughts because, her and RTM saw the movie around the same time because they don't live in the U.S., so it came out earlier for them. So Fatma, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Fatma, and my Twitter will be in the subscription box, not in the description box. Sorry.
Yes, I'll go ahead and link that down below. So, you saw the movie, what was it, almost a week ago now, last Wednesday?
Yeah, and I literally just came home from my second viewing now, which was amazing. And I saw it on Wednesday as well, and like the movie from beginning to end is just a whirlwind of emotions, beautiful shots. You just go through this whole new world, and you see how in depth it is, and like James Wan is a genius because like now that I've seen it the second time, you just see these details and these things that he's worked so hard on, and the characters just work so well together. Mira, holy shit, Mira was just fantastic, and I didn't expect to love her as much as I do, and she's now my favorite female superhero in DC, I think.
And that's the
we'll
funny
see.
thing, and that's the funny thing too. Like, obviously, for anyone listening, like I still have not seen Aquaman yet, so this is gonna still be a non-spoiler review. Like Fatma is gonna do her best to keep a non-spoiler. Like
I won't mention anything
for me mainly, but but of course for you guys.
No, for you and for everyone else as well. I mean, you can publish this on the 21st, or like I think you'd want to do your own one when you see it. So that's
well, I see the movie. So today is Tuesday the 18th. I see it tomorrow night. So. So I'll finally be able to see it, but yeah, like, and it's funny because like Fatma and I were literally just talking about this because like Amazon had like their early Prime screenings for the movie on the 15th, and like of course it's released like almost everywhere else in the world already. So like a lot of my friends have already seen the movie, and so like I'm gonna be kind of like the last, even though like it'll still technically be early from the U.S. release, but yeah. So but yeah. So what you were saying about Mira? So like when I watched Justice League for the first time. Even her scene, her very brief scene with Jason that I think we had already kind of established was like a reshoot. Even then, like I was so into Mira as a character, like I wanted so much more of her. And obviously finding out that like a lot of her stuff was cut too, which is like that's all it does. Is like, oh well, this was cut, this was cut, this was cut. But like Amber Heard did such an amazing job, even in that. Like the fact that she can look good in a Joss Whedon scene just speaks to how, first of all, how good of an actress she is, and how she carries herself like physically on screen. And from day one of this movie, I think she's looked great. I know some people complained about her wig or whatever, but like I think she looks good. Like granted, it's a different hair color entirely from Justice League, but like I don't really care. She's probably one of my most anticipated characters in the movie, other than like obviously like Aquaman and even like Ocean Master. So I'm glad that like you got to enjoy her as much as you did.
No, I did, and there's a scene that like. Till this second, I'm just like, Amber / Mira did that, and I'm just like, and I won't say anything more, but like, there's so much more to that rooftop chase action scene than in the trailer, and that was an initial worry that everyone had with that 5-minute trailer, because I don't think it's ever been done before to have a trailer over 4 minutes, but yeah, James Wan was totally right, and you know the Faruqi brothers and how they spoke to Jason, and he confirmed with them that there's so much more to this movie than the 5-minute / other 2-minute clip is. There really is, and you're in for a ride, literally from beginning to end.
And that's like watching all the trailers, especially that most recent trailer. I think was probably one of the best one for me. I enjoyed the 5-minute trailer. I love the Comic-Con trailer. But like that, the most recent trailer for me just like really cemented like I'm gonna love this movie, and like I usually try my best not to get myself too hyped for movies these days, especially considering how Justice League happened. But,
yeah.
But like it's nice seeing that like this movie is being well received by mostly everyone. Granted, like it's at like a 70-something% on Rotten Tomatoes for those of you who care. So like I figured like critics would enjoy this movie for the most part, considering like it's James Wan, and like I think a lot of this like negative stigma that the DCEU gets is from basically like mostly from Zack himself, just being involved in the movies. Whether or not people honestly think that they're bad movies is still up for debate. I think a lot of negativity overall just comes from Zack. So to have a movie obviously not done by him, I think already kind of gives the movie a more fair shot, at least in the critics' eyes, because like they're not gonna like blame Zack for something that's not his, even though they obviously like people want to blame like for those people who don't like Mira or whatever, like oh well she was a Zack Snyder decision, so of course it was a bad decision and blah blah blah.
Oh no, I didn't like. Obviously, I don't subscribe to that bias against Zack, and it's evident from anyone who's been watching this or following me or following us in general. But when you go into this movie, and like my sister and my brother, they're more towards Marvel, and they actually really enjoyed it, and it was really, really fun for them as well. Literally, Jason, spot on performance, and I felt for him, and I've not felt for him in terms of like, oh, he was so weak, but like I felt the same struggle that he goes through. Granted, I'm not like mixed race, but I have that dysphoria that you have when you're from a whole different country, and then you've lived your entire life in another country, and you just don't know where to relate and who your real people are, what culture do you actually belong to. So that was a great element that was portrayed for a lot of biracial kids and kids that have that level of dysphoria as well, whether it's you see it with kids that are immigrants or people who have moved and never known their homeland to that extent. And it's a wonderful movie because the Atlantis / surface world and the sea world, or the Seven Kingdoms, that clash was there, and you saw how he struggled with having to deal with two worlds. And I think that's a constant element with Aquaman, because in the comics, as far as I've seen with the themes, as a character, he's always trying to balance having both of them in his life. So he can't always be part of the Justice League, and he can't always be in Atlantis. So I'm looking forward to where this movie goes ahead. Obviously, I haven't spoiled anything, have I?
Oh no, you're good.
No, but like you obviously, everyone knows you're going to get an Aquaman 2, and I'm really hoping that we should get an Aquaman 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Make me 10 Aquaman movies. I love this character so much. But I think that theme is going to be there, and it's going to be really relatable for a lot of people. And whether you're biracial or not, I think it's still something that's really fresh to see. It's not like, your average Ant-Man, hint, hint, or like, I don't know,
like,
who else is...
Oh yeah, like I see what you're saying. Like this movie would be way different. Yeah, like if this was just like how it is in the comics, like it's just another blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy. Like it would, like it wouldn't mean as much. It might have been like okay, but like having Jason there alone, I think makes it a lot more deep and more relatable for a lot of people.
So the fact that he himself as an actor has had that element in his life was a great bonus, because it allowed him to portray the character in that way. I mean, in the comics, he's the blonde hair, blue-eyed superhero still deals with that level of, where do I actually belong? Where does my duty fully, where does my duty have to be? And it's like there's that element, but it makes it more real and more set because of the actor and who he is as a person. So I think Zack Snyder's decision in casting Jason Momoa is by far one of the most genius casting decisions, I think, in the history of cinema. I think because you've got this character. I'm also in a lot of disbelief purely because this character has been the butt of the joke for the 75 plus years that he's existed.
Mostly since the Super Friends cartoon, because that's where like a lot of people get their
Yeah, so like he's been the butt of the joke. Like, what, you talk to fish, you're not anything, for a long, long time. And the fact that you know, during the time that they were making this movie, I was like, yeah, this is exciting. But it didn't actually sink in, and it doesn't actually, like, you know, reside in your brain that this is actually happening until you see the movie. And when you see it, you're like, holy, this is a movie about a superhero who is so powerful and has been misunderstood and misrepresented in media and in the world in general. But it's just a great movie, and I'm not very picky with movies, and I'm not very harsh either. So I'd give it like a 4.5/5. If I'm being too harsh, I'd give it a 4.5. But that's like nitpicking.
Look, honestly, it's so hard for, like, in general to find, like, a perfect movie. So, like, even like, out of 4.5, like, that says a lot. Especially, like, knowing how excited you've been for this movie. Even since Justice League and before that, like, since you've been on the podcast, like, that's been, like, the one movie you're probably looking forward to the most in a long time. Yeah. So, the fact you get it that high, like, obviously makes me excited for it, too. But, like, even, like, obviously, like, I still haven't seen the movie. So, like, for me, hearing all the positive praise for it just makes it so much, like, so calming, because, like, obviously, like, I obviously keep going back to Justice League, but when that happened, like, so much of the fandom just, like, gave up. Like, we were all just so, like...
from that is just unreal.
Like, even then, like, over a year later, like, it still, like, sucks. Like, that's the Justice League movie we're stuck with right now. Like, we like...
Because, like, I've chosen to fully forget that even existed. And I think James Wan, I think that was a question that you asked RTM before, was about how, was there anything leading from Justice League? There was literally one mention of one thing that happened in Justice League, and I'm not going to go further into where it was mentioned or how in the movie, but... you know, it's as if even the directors in the movies, so I think Shazam and Aquaman, have decided to completely disregard Justice League, and I think we should all do that and stop thinking about that movie and giving it any credibility, any, like, you know, worry or anything, because that was a whirlwind that was horrible, and it's gone now, and literally this movie is worth everything. And I feel like maybe they should put me in with their marketing team, because I love it that much.
It's funny you say that, because like we like a few weeks ago we did the Justice. Oh no, it was like a month ago now. Like, we did the Justice League commentary for the anniversary, and it was honestly, even with, like, we were all having fun, but, like, it was just so hard to get through that movie. Oh my god, like. We were at, like, I would say, like, 3/4 of the way through the movie, and we were just like, oh my god, there's still 30 more minutes. Like, it's like...
Yeah, just choose to forget that movie exists, and until one day they release, let's say this word here, because, you know, everyone goes crazy, the Snyder Cut, until they release that, I'm just not gonna, like, pay any attention to any of what happened there, and it's a shame, it's a big shame, but the good news is that you've got Aquaman and Shazam, and both of the directors seem like they're taking similar approaches. And now that I've seen one of the directors, so James Wan, and the person that he is, and how he's been in charge of this movie, and, you know, the attitude that he has around it, I'm quite safe in the knowledge that I think David Sandberg.
Yeah, that's the Shazam director.
Yeah. He's taking it on as well, especially the way he is on Twitter and how he's like,
he's great
it's wonderful. Yeah, he's great, because I think James Wan is the same. So he debunks things straight out of the bat, and they've been trying the hardest. So yeah, I just suggest that you forget that even occurred, and, you know, you're here now, and the 13-month wait is over.
Like, honestly, it's so weird to think, like, it literally has been over a year since the last DCEU movie.
Yeah, it is.
Like, it's funny because, like, I felt like after BVS we had a Suicide Squad right away, and then like 10 months later we had Wonder Woman. So, like, it felt like, okay, like, we were getting movies, like, fairly consistently, and such a huge gap. It felt like the longest wait ever. Like, and these are coming from people who waited almost 3 years from Man of Steel to Batman v Superman.
Yeah, it is. It's just because there's so many other great movies that are out too that, you know, like Black Panther was great. I enjoyed it. Yes, it had its bad parts, but it also had its great parts that I enjoyed. And there's been really good movies that have been coming out as well. And you're just like, well, I want my characters there. But yeah.
And one nice thing too about with Aquaman is that, like, when James has been talking about it, and that, like, he wanted to make his Aquaman film, and Zach respected that, even though, like, Justice League came out the way it did. Like, Zach obviously had, like, the one scene in Atlantis, in the one area where the Steppenwolf came down, but other than that, like, Zach pretty much left Atlantis relatively untouched for James to do whatever he wanted to do with it. So I'm glad that on that level, like, Zach respected James enough to be like, hey, like, I'm just gonna have this one bit here, and the rest is up to your imagination. Do with it what you will, because this is gonna be, you're taking the reins of this character and the vision for this franchise. Carry it on however you will. And from what everyone's saying, like, Atlantis is, I mean, even the stuff in the trailers, like, Atlantis looks stunning. Like it seriously reminds me of like Star Wars meets, like everyone's saying, like, Star Wars meets Lord of the Rings meets Indiana Jones. Like that's honestly the vibe I get from the trailers and stuff. Just the visuals alone make it look like such a beautiful movie. And then that's something that I feel like has been, like, well, at least one of the key things about why I enjoy the DCEU so much, that, like, the movies are visually stunning. Well, for the most part, anyway.
So,
go ahead.
Personally, I don't want to say it's Indiana Jones meet Star Wars meet Lord of the Rings meet all of these movies, because each of these movies belongs to a category for themselves. This movie is an original movie in and of itself. It's never been done before, and I understand that people want to relate it to how other movies feel like and what vibe you'll get from it, but so the first time I was like, yeah, this part is so Indiana Jonesy, and then this scene is so Star Warsy. But then now that I've come back to watch it the second time, I'm just like, hang on a second, this is a whole movie in and of its own right, and it's like a genre for its own. It is a superhero movie, so it goes into the superhero genre, but the feel that you get from all the scenes and everything and how it works together and how well it's woven together is just, it's something that you've never seen before at this scale. And when I watched Voyage of the Dawn Treader with Narnia, it was mentioned that directors absolutely hate dealing with water and sea. And any director or any movie or any star hate, well, they like, you know, it's a hard task to deal with water in general. Never mind creating an entire like, it is its own universe, because there's so many different kingdoms underwater, and doing it so well. And the VFX, I was just looking at it today and trying to find something to fault it in terms of the CGI and the VFX and all of that stuff, and I just couldn't. It was done so well, like very, very well, and you're in a world that you can't imagine actually happened, and the fact that it's happened now with the movie that's this amazing is something to be, you know, joyous about, if you get what I mean. The only gripe I had about this movie, and this is me like asking more, and I would watch this movie for 3.5 hours if I could, was to see more of the other kingdoms. And I don't know whether James actually developed the other kingdoms in depth, but if there is an extended cut, yes, I'm looking forward to it if there is. But the movie doesn't. It's not lacking because it's not long, if you get what I mean. So, like, BVS lacked a bit with the theatrical cut in comparison to the Ultimate Edition, if you get what I mean. Whereas this, without the extended, or without the extra scenes that I'm sure James Wan has, is still a great movie and doesn't need anything else. This is just me trying to, like, find something to be like, oh, why didn't you do this? Sorry, I've waffled on a bit long.
No, you're right. And that's the nice thing too, is that like obviously having the runtime like that. I know a lot of people complain about like movies being too long these days, but like honestly, like if it's a good movie, the more of it there is, the better. Like if I'm like drawn into the story, I want to see more of it. I don't like so like even like a 30-minute difference makes a movie feel drastic. It's a drastic difference to me. So like that's why like one of my issues with Justice League, even though like coming out of it like I thought I liked it, but I even said like then one of my issues was the runtime of being 2 hours. It felt short. It felt like so much was missing in that 2 hours. Whereas like with Man of Steel, like you felt like you had more than enough there. With Batman v Superman, yeah, there was. I felt like at the time, like there was some stuff I wish I had seen, but like for the most part, like I was pretty satisfied. And then the Ultimate Edition came out, and I'm like, oh my god, like this is everything I ever could have wanted. Oh my god.
Yeah.
And to this day, like the Ultimate Edition to me is like the perfect film for me and my enjoyment.
Yeah, definitely.
Like it's
so like. No, go on, carry on. Sorry, I'm
you're fine.
So on fire.
Yeah, but like just having like a movie that. It doesn't hold back in terms of like how much it's trying to tell. It's not to not have that studio mandate of like it has to be under 4 hours and blah blah blah. Because like with Justice League, like yeah, it technically had 2 hour runtime, but credits are almost 10 minutes. So you only have like an hour and 50-ish minutes of film, which is not honestly I don't think is enough for a big movie like Justice League was supposed to be. So having Aquaman be back to like 2 hours and 20-ish minutes, which is about like that's like the average runtime for most DCEU movies, like. You know, Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, Wonder Woman. Like, just having that extra bit of time to flesh out your characters, to flesh out the story, to give your audience the time to grow with these characters, to grow attached to these characters, I think makes for a better movie-going experience in the long run. Because even, again, like I said, people want to complain about the runtimes of movies, but, like, look at The Dark Knight. Look how long that movie is and how much money that movie made, and people still call it one of the best movies of all time. You know, so I think it just depends on the movie, but, like... But yeah, so that's all I have to say regarding that.
Yeah, so it's 2.5 hours, and I don't know whether the runtime includes the credits and all of that fun stuff. But as it is, it's a wonderful movie, and I don't feel like it necessarily needs the extra stuff. But if you did have whatever extra stuff James Wan has lying in his editing studio or whatever, if you add it on, mate, I'd love to delve more into this, and oh god, honestly I cannot wait for Aquaman 2, and there's so much potential that they could do with this movie, and again a lot of people on Twitter have been saying, oh, the final shot, and for me, because the first time I was just over, like emotions were running wild, and I was like, this is amazing, this is amazing, this is amazing, and then today I can concur that final shot is beautiful, literally beautiful. And there were scenes where I'm just like, wow, like James, you did that. And I don't know whether he had influence from Zack and how he does his movies and how he shoots them, but it's a beautiful movie to watch, and the story is really, really good, and the characters in it are amazing. Patrick Wilson did a fantastic job as Orm. Yahya was, oh my god, there was a scene that I saw that shift from, obviously you know he's the villain, so that shift to becoming a villain, and I'm like, wow, you are a great actor and you've done really well, and I cannot wait to see more of your character. I don't know whether I'm spoiling at the moment, but your acting is really good, and he's doing his the HBO Watchmen. He's been cast as a character in the Watchmen, right?
Yeah. I can't remember him and Jeremy Irons.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to his performance in there because he did a really, really good job. Who's the actor that people have been a bit meh about? Mira's father.
Oh,
do you know his name?
Dolph Lundgren. He's like Ivan Drago in the Rocky movies. He was in Arrow in the 5th season. He's not known for being like the best actor in Hollywood, but he's known
for being like the campy, you know,
like just more like a physical
man, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So no, in this movie, I'm glad he did this movie, and I think in his head he was like, oh well, it's just another superhero movie where I'm playing a character in like a costume and all of that, but his acting ability in this movie is a lot better than what I'm used to seeing from him. So I do remember him in Arrow slightly, and all the other, you know, campy, you know, action movies that we all love and enjoy, but we all know that they're a bit extra in that sense. But his acting was really well received. Vulko was a darling. I loved Vulko so much, and I'm so glad that the actor, God, I'm so bad with names.
Oh, Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe, yes. I'm so glad that Willem Dafoe did this role, because watching the Spider-Man, the Raimi Spider-Man movies, and you're like, oh, I hate the Goblin, the Green Goblin. I am right with that, right?
Yeah.
Watching that and then seeing him as Vulko and training Arthur was just so endearing. And then I'm trying to think of all the characters that you will enjoy. There's literally no characters in this movie that you hate or dislike or not enjoy.
So here's my question, and this might be kind of spoiler-ish. Obviously, you don't have to go into detail. It's kind of like a simple-ish question. So obviously, this movie takes a lot of inspiration from like the New 52 era of Aquaman comics that Jeff Johns wrote.
Right.
Do you think there's enough there that they didn't cover in this movie that you think will be enough there for a sequel?
There's 100% more that you can do with this movie in a sequel, and I haven't read. I'm looking at my Aquaman shelf, my comic shelf at the moment, but I haven't read the Aquaman run that Jeff Johns wrote pre-Rebirth. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I haven't read any Aquaman Rebirth, but I've read Jeff Johns' run with Justice League, so Throne of Atlantis and the Origin and what does it say there? The Villain's Journey. Those I have got those three, and there was a scene that I really wanted to see in the movie, but I think everyone's seen this, so it's not a spoiler. You know when King Atlan has the trident and he's commanding the waves, and then you see the whales coming in, cross-sectioning and doing that jump. Everyone, I'm assuming that everyone's aware of the shot that Arthur Curry has when he tries to prove himself against a Green Lantern in
where he's
the
something
comic
like a shark, and it's kind of like a very similar-ish shot to the whale shot.
Yeah. It's like the sharks and all of them coming out in one go. I really wanted to see Arthur Curry himself doing that, so I didn't get to see that. That was a shot that I really wanted to see, but I guess you saw it with Atlan, and you see other things, without me going into spoilers, of Arthur doing spectacular things with the trident. But in terms of the character and the stories and a lot of the other elements, there's definitely room for 2 more movies, I think, because you've got so many kingdoms and you've got so many things that you can do with this new world that you're immersed into. Sorry, say something.
Oh no, you're fine. No, you're fine.
Yeah, it's just beautiful.
Because that's my thing. Not that I was necessarily worried, but like obviously, like a lot of what people know about Aquaman's storyline, a lot of it now comes from the New 52. So having this movie tackle more or less an adaptation of Throne of Atlantis mixed with Black Manta, as well as his origin story, like it feels it's a lot to be thrown in there, and obviously, like for the most part, like people think that it works. Now my thing is, like, I'm just curious to see what they do in the future, because like Throne of Atlantis to me is one of my favorite Aquaman storylines in comics. Like, that's like the one that I go to. Like, that's like the Ocean Master story that I wanted to be seen on the big screen, and obviously it looks like they're doing like again like a somewhat of an adaptation of that. And I'm just curious to see what they do with the future. Not that I'm necessarily worried, but I'm just curious because like that is one of the biggest storylines, as well as the stuff with like the trench and stuff that like James is, like does in this movie, which is like that's another thing. Like this guy again, kind of spoilers. If you guys don't want to hear about it, then don't tune in for the next couple seconds. But like obviously there's a scene with the trench, and like everyone's saying like that's like the most like horror-y that James gets in this movie, and obviously it's a very James Wan. Yeah, everyone's saying that's like that's a definitive James Wan horror moment in this movie. And of course, like with James Wan being primarily known for horror. Like, he's done, like, the Fast and the Furious, or he did Furious 7. But obviously he's known for, like, you know, like, he created the Saw franchise. He did the Conjuring franchise. He's done the Insidious franchise. Like, he's done so many horror franchises. And that's the one thing, like, when... Because he's told the story, like, Warner Brothers offered him Aquaman and The Flash. He said, like, and they said, take your pick, which one you want to do. He's like, oh, I want to do the Aquaman because there's so much you can do with that one. And I'm so glad he did. Like, of course, I'd be curious to see what he would have done with the Flash storyline, but I think Aquaman fits him more. Like, I would say, like, other than Batman, I would probably say Aquaman fits the most because there's a lot more you could do with what James is, what a lot of his strong suits are as far as, like, directing and his characters go. You can do a lot better with Aquaman than, like, I think, like I'm not saying, like, Flash would have been bad under James Wan, but I'm just saying it would have been different. Like I think this fits what he does best. So having, like, the trench and things like that, like, and I've been saying this for months, like, the ocean is still so, there's still so many questions that we as a species still have about the ocean. Like, there's still so much we don't know. And the fact that, like, this movie can, like, tackle some of those things, granted, this is fiction, but to have a guy who's so well known for great horror tackle some of that stuff, I think was definitely one of the things that drew me in as a fan. It made me excited.
Yeah. So there's quite a few things that I'm going to talk about now. So so with the horror stuff, the trench was beautiful. So that scene that everyone has gifted from the trailer where you see Aquaman and Mira with a red flashlight.
Yeah, where they're jumping off the boat.
Yeah, and they're jumping off the boat. The whole directing for that entire scene, and this is going to go into a major spoiler, but I'm not going to say anything post this, is just beautiful. The monsters look great, and there is an element of his horror stuff, so there is a few jump scares in this movie. I think at least 3 jump scares, but not like, oh, you're expecting it. It just happens, and then you're like, wait, what? This happened, and then you're taken into an action sequel. So I think his James Wan's horror experience and his background from that is showing. And then I haven't watched Furious 7. I think I'll probably like lose I lose some cool points for that, but I haven't. And I think he's really good with action, and he's really good with suspense. He's really good with drama, relationships. I think he's one of the best directors you can have on any movie. And then as exactly like you said, with the building up of the universe, I've just taken the comic novel that I have, and I've just flipped through it, and just to recap everything. But yes, there's definitely more that could be done in a sequel. I had that initial thought as well, having Orm and Black Manta would be too oversaturated, but I don't know how much of a spoiler this would be, so are you willing to cut things out from this?
I can, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so it's not a huge spoiler, but the main villain in this isn't Black Manta. It's King Orm.
Okay, yeah, that I figured as much, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not saying what happens, but it was a very smart move to introduce Black Manta at the level that he had him in this movie on the first movie. And that's all I can say without going into too much.
No, yeah, I gotcha.
And ruining it. But it was a very smart move, and you don't feel oversaturated. And the way that Black Manta was utilised in this movie was really smart as well. Bearing in mind that he is young for the character that we're used to getting in terms of the comic books, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, because I mean, Black Manta in the comics is usually, I would say maybe like 40s, 50s, and I could say in here he's probably, like 30s-ish? Right.
Yeah. It's a great way to set him up, and then obviously fictionally you can always edit his age and turn him older and have the sequel set 5 years later, and still have him a fleshed out villain, if that makes sense. But oh god, yes. Oh my god, Nick, you're in for a ride. This movie, the third act is literally fireworks, explosions, but it's not like, it doesn't make you feel oversaturated. But the third act is probably one of my favorite third acts in any movie ever, and that's saying a lot, because Batman vs Superman still holds like the first ranking, and then Man of Steel, and then it's Aquaman for me. But Actually, I think I'm putting Aquaman and Man of Steel on par together. Because, yes, it's done in a different way to what Zack Snyder's done. But, like, from beginning to end, it's just beautiful. And I can't wait for my third viewing. It's definitely a movie that you want to see more than once. For sure, for sure.
Yeah. And then that's nice, too. Can I go back to Black Manta for a second? Have I told you that story of me and him at Comic-Con this past year?
Oh, yeah, I think I remember it vaguely, but...
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like I've been telling the story a lot lately. Granted, it's only because like the movie's about to come out. But so basically, I'll do like a brief summary because I'm imagining people who listen have probably heard the story a billion times now. So I was there waiting at the DC booth for like the Aquaman cast to show up, and like he walks out, like him and Patrick Wilson walk out basically at the same time. No one recognizes them immediately, and of course I do. So of course I yell Patrick's name and I say hi, and then he waves back and says hi back. And then Yaya comes out, and then like I yell his name, and then he's like, oh hey, and we like have like a very brief conversation, like ask me for my name and like what I thought of the suit, because like the suit reveal had like just come out at Comic-Con. So yeah, so it was really cool, like actually like meeting him and talking to him about it. It was
yeah. It's such a darling. Like I can tell from his Twitter that he's and his Instagram that he's such a great person, and I'd love to meet him one day and like talk to him and be like, oh my god, how did you feel being on the set and you know exploring Black Manta as a character, because not a lot of people, like the general audience, just knows Aquaman and they just know that he's not the cool superhero. Obviously, you get that from Sheldon Cooper in The Big Bang Theory, which is a trash show, but you know. That's what everyone is used to, and no one knows who Black Manta. Well, not no one, apart from the comic book people and people who are, you know, familiar with these characters. The general audience do not know who Orm is, or Black Manta, or the Seven Kingdoms. Like, it's so it's amazing. like watching it the second time, I thought I'd find more things to nitpick on apart from me wanting more, and I couldn't. Like, I just couldn't. And Mira, just I'm in love with her, and I think Amber Heard is really, really good looking. And I was quite you know, worried about Amber Heard being cast because I'd only seen her in the movie with Nicolas Cage. I think it was like a car chase movie, or they're in a car for a majority of it, and I don't really remember any of her previous performances, but like she did really well in this movie.
And that's my thing, like honestly, and I'll admit this, like before Justice League I had never really seen Amber in anything, but when it comes to the DCEU, like I've always given actors the benefit of the doubt. Like even when like Ben was cast, of course I was like one of the very few people at the time saying like, I think this is a great decision, I think everyone's just overreacting. And then when Gal was cast, and like I'd never seen Gal in anything, I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm willing to give her a shot. Like, if they think she's good enough for Wonder Woman, that's good enough for me. And I think she's a really good Wonder Woman. Same thing with like Ezra Miller. I think Ezra Miller was one of the best castings in the universe. And then when Ray was cast, obviously he had never been in any major films, but he looked exactly like Cyborg. Like literally, you couldn't have gotten anyone else to look exactly like the comic book character. And Ray did an amazing job. And then with Jason, I'll admit, like, and I think I've told the story. So when the rumors first came out like 5 years ago that Jason was in the running for Aquaman, at the time I had never really seen him in anything. My only kind of known exposure to him was like that Conan movie he was in. I had never seen it, but I had only ever heard bad things about it. So I only associated like him with that bad movie. So I just thought, oh my god, no, I don't want this guy being Aquaman. No. And like at the time, and this is, and I remember talking about it on Tumblr too, and everyone was like, oh well, I mean, I think I'm pretty excited and blah blah, and I'm just like, you know what, like I just don't see it. Like I don't see this ever happening. And then it comes out, and then he's Aquaman, and like I don't know what happened. Like all of a sudden, like as time went on, I'm like, you know what, like I don't think I ever gave this guy a fair shot. And then I started getting really excited about it, especially when Jason started talking about it and how excited he was to play this like Polynesian version of the character and have so much of his own heritage thrown onto the character that he can actually relate to Arthur more as a character than like, again, just having him be like just another blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy. Like that's, I think hearing him talk about it, that made me go like, oh my god, like this is perfect. Like it makes so much more sense than just having a normal dude. Like having Jason Momoa like portray one of, honestly, he could be classified as one of the most ridiculous comic book characters, and to make him cool and to make him relatable and to make him to like honestly to now be like to actually be a character who people take seriously now. Like I think after this, people are actually gonna really give Aquaman a fair shot, because even with Justice League, like Aquaman, I don't think the way that Joss directed him anyway he wasn't really much of a standout, you know. So like it was hard to say like I mean I still enjoyed Jason in the movie, but it was hard to give him a fair shot because so much of his scenes were Joss reshoots and all that kind of stuff. So like I knew like I was gonna be like, okay, you know, I love this version of the character once I see more of him in his own movie, and I think having the opportunity that he's been given to play this character is gonna mean a lot to people of color, people who, like you said earlier, maybe not necessarily people who are like mixed race, but just people who can relate to having like that like outsider mentality of like being torn between two worlds, being torn between two ways of like, well, am I supposed to do this or am I supposed to do this? Like, what am I supposed to do? Having a character like that struggle so much, I think, will make for a more relatable hero and I think for a movie that will stand the test of time. I think. Yeah,
I think so as well. I think because this is the first ever underwater movie with the casting that it has and the amazing work that it's been in, it's just like you're now hearing about how amazing Watchmen is, but if you when Watchmen came out before, it was one of the most like, you know, controversial movies. People didn't like it, and it was ahead of its time, right? So with Batman vs Superman, I don't really hear much about any other movie being talked about as much as I have ever heard with Batman vs Superman, and that's because people are still coming around to it till this day, and they will. And the exact same thing with Man of Steel. There was a lot of hate with Man of Steel in those 3 years, and I remember, you know, how we were on Tumblr and it was really hard, and we tried to make a positivity, you know, movement, and it worked to a degree, but the hate was still there for that movie. And now you're seeing a lot of these critics, like I think one of the Collider critics was saying, oh, Man of Steel was my favorite movie, but I'm like, I'm sure you were like slating it before, and even if you weren't, it was a really hated movie, and it had a lot of criticism. And I don't look at Rotten Tomatoes or care about the figure that comes from IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes or any of these other websites, because I feel like there is a general consensus to like what is supposed to be cool and not like anything that goes against the big company. And I don't really want to turn this podcast into, you know, DC versus whatever, but it is the reality of it. And with Aquaman now, yes, the numbers on Rotten Tomato are falling, and it was at 79/80 at the beginning, and now it's at 71. But I think for what it is and for what you're getting, it's worth 100%, if I would say, or like at least 95 plus. But then again, you're dealing with people who are still going to be picky with VFX, and all of that nonsense that you're seeing people being critical about. Is that what you were asking? I think I've gone on a completely different tangent.
No, yeah, but I think it's because I think the most ridiculous thing. I mean, granted, I'm not expecting everyone to love this movie. Like, it's whatever. Like, I've accepted that the DCEU is gonna get some level of hate no matter what. But the most ridiculous bit of criticism I've seen regarding this movie is saying, "Oh, well, there's too much water." Are you freaking
like,
kidding?
had you not done a lot of water scenes, you'd be like, well, it's Aquaman. It's a movie about a superhero who controls the seas, and he's the king of the seas. Why isn't there a lot of water scenes? And like, because it is a movie about Aquaman, and he did do a lot of underwater scenes, and bearing in mind they are excruciating to do, and having all of that like CGI and all of that work that you have to do on top of the filming and on top of making sure that the movement aligns with how you would actually move in water. So you've got a lot of acting work there as well, because like they have to move as if they're fluid in water, and their face has to be fluid. You do look different underwater. So like there's a lot of work that he has done to make sure that this movie is actually what it's supposed to be, and yet people are still complaining. Do you get what I'm saying? In that respect, it's just like there's no winning. There's literally no winning with people. I don't know. I think this movie will definitely open up the doors for Marvel's Namor. Yeah. I don't know how you pronounce his name, but I mean, pardon?
No, yeah, I was just saying, like, I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's like Namor. I don't even know.
Yeah. Watch like Huffington Post or Collider or whatever say, oh, Namor is being Namor. I'm just gonna say Namor. Marvel has announced that Namor is going to be in production soon. The first ever movie to be made underwater.
Oh my god!
And I'm like, no, because like they did that with Captain Marvel. I'm like, did we not just have Wonder Woman? Like, did we not just do that now? Like, it was only a few months ago, and you're acting like that didn't happen. But you know, it'll come. Watch it happen in a few months, and then you guys can like tweet me and be like, yeah, Fatma, you were right.
Yeah, that's why I'm not surprised at anything at this point. Like, especially when like that last Captain Marvel trailer came out and like all the hate was going like, oh, see, like this is people were like, oh, finally Wonder Woman will be dethroned. I'm like, why does she have to be? Just celebrate both if they're good. Like why do we?
We're living in an exceptional period of time where we're actually getting these characters that, you know, 10-15 years ago, anyone. Well, wait. What's the timeline? I'm too old for this. 10 years ago.
The MCU started like 10 years ago.
No. I'm talking way before that. So like early 2000s. What's that? To me, that's like 5 years ago. But like,
yeah,
you know,
like
18.
Yeah.
Okay. So like in the early 2000s, 90s, and probably in the 80s. I wasn't alive then, but it was known, and it was like the uncool thing. Like, no studio would put so much money on a superhero movie and bother, apart from like Batman and Superman and Spider-Man, but they've always been iconic in their own right, if you understand what I mean. Whereas with all of these characters that you're getting from both Marvel and DC, granted I have virtually no connection to any Marvel character much, it's a brilliant time to be alive for a geek and a nerd, and for those people who've been so, you know, attached to these characters, and they read the comic books and they put so much time in, so much love and so much emotional connections to these characters. Okay, so the fact that we're getting that should be celebrated. And yes, I don't like Marvel much, but I won't bash someone for being over the moon for getting Captain Marvel. That's a fantastic thing, because who would have thunk that this would happen? Literally, like talk to anyone in the from 2000 to 2005. So before Batman Begins, I think that was a 2005 movie. Ask them, do you think they will ever make a Captain Marvel movie? It would have been out of this world to even consider making it, because who's Captain Marvel? So if you are lucky enough to enjoy both Marvel and DC and have genuine character love for both of them, I think now is the time to be happy about them and celebrate them equally. And whether you're pro DC or pro Marvel, I used to be really pro DC and like, oh yeah, Marvel's this, Marvel's that, and yes, they have their issues, and yes, DC has their issues. I'm well aware of both of them, but they also have amazing characters that people have genuine life connection to, that they've had childhoods related to, and I'm just so happy that we're finally getting them. Which is such a great thing to celebrate. And you saw Volkov on screen, and you saw fishermen from Aquaman on a large screen, done so well. They weren't just on a large screen and half-assed, but the fishermen were done so well, and I just wanted at least 2 more minutes with them. That's all. That's my gripe with them, because their makeup was fantastic. If the Oscars do not shortlist Aquaman for makeup or costume design, it's rigged. It is.
Oh yeah, like that's why I'm not surprised the Academy is like totally forgetting about Aquaman, because like they're nominating like Black Panther for visual effects, and they're nominating like Ant-Man and the Wasp, and, like I enjoy Black Panther, but that third act has some of the worst CGI I've seen in a superhero movie in years. Like it's so bad.
Look, guys. Black Panther was my first ever Marvel movie in the cinema, so I don't hate Black Panther. If anything, it's one of my favorite Marvel movies. Okay, but like even I can sit down and say that CGI was piss poor.
Yeah, it was really bad. Hey, I'll admit, like, and we're coming from a franchise where like they had, you know, Henry Cavill's gross face, like his CGI face. So like obviously like where we judge that, we judge this. Like we aren't showing our bias here. We're showing like bad CGI is bad CGI no matter where it comes from. So
yeah. See, like I get Infinity War because it has at least some parts of the movie were really beautiful to look at. I didn't watch it in the cinemas, but I watched it at home, and some parts of Infinity War were really beautiful to look at. But like I don't get the Ant-Man and the Wasp nomination or the Black Panther nomination for VFX. But I'm just gonna wait until I see the costume design and the makeup at least, because the costume design in Aquaman was beautiful. And none of it was CGI. Because, like, Spider-Man in Infinity War was CGI. That whole suit was CGI. And so was Black Panther at parts. So was, like, almost all of them. Like, Iron Man's all CGI. But the costumes in Aquaman are beautiful. And you've seen them in the trailers, but when you see them moving with you know, the effects that they put afterwards, they're just really mesmerizing to look at. Especially the golden green suit. I wish there was more of that, but I'm hoping that will be present in the sequel.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Like before we kind of wrap things up here, I just want to say like the costume for Aquaman, or like the armor, or whatever you want to call it for Aquaman, it could have looked so bad. But they pulled it off so incredibly well. Granted, it's not my favorite look from Aquaman in the DCEU. I'm still partial to his BVS look personally. However,
yeah.
the way they were able to pull it off, I think is nothing short of fantastic. Because it's honestly one of the hardest bits of superhero costuming that you can adapt in live action. Like, it's so hard to make it look realistic and cool. And I think that they did it really well.
So without spoiling the last shot, this is what you're going along the lines of, is why the last shot is so beautiful. And this suit works so well with the world that James has built up and how it looks in general, and how it feels, and how all the scenes that you see in Atlantis and with the fishermen and all of the other parts of the ocean, apart from the trenches and the brine. The brine were amazing. I wanted to see more of the brine. Oh my god, it was so funny. Nick, you're gonna have a wonderful evening tomorrow when you watch the movie. It's you and your brother.
This has been.
I'm glad to go with your brother.
It's been such a frustrating wait for me, because like I'm like literally one of like the last people to see it. And I'm just like,
oh yeah, one of the things I want to say before we finish is that I think DC from now on will definitely go for the worldwide release before America, because it's so volatile. And I think a lot of the movie, and I think this is what all of these critics and what all of these people kind of, I think I'm not saying you guys, because you guys are like, it's not your fault that it's why it's so volatile there in the US, but I think a lot of studios who want to start a universe or who want to do anything will start to release movies worldwide first, because we're a lot more forgiving, and we don't like have this mentality of Rotten Tomatoes dictates everything. Because I think in the USA, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if people just look at Rotten Tomato scores and they're like, yes, I'll watch this, no, I won't. Whereas here, that's not a huge thing. Like, people watch the trailer and they're like, oh yeah, okay, that looks good, I'll watch it. And I think the UK is second on the list in terms of how how harsh we are, but the whole worldwide release first and then the USA last is a method that a lot of studios, whether it's DC, Marvel, Universal, Sony, will start to adapt, because Venom did really well in China, and that's what bumped the numbers up, if I'm right.
Like Venom did huge, and like even like right now, like Aquaman, I think either today or like late yesterday, I think crossed 200 million in China alone, which is insane.
And you've got
like it's
the rest of the countries, and I think a lot of studios are going to start adapting this. Marvel, I don't think they will, because I mean, it's a given that it will do well. But yeah, I'm sorry for you guys, Nick, but this is great because for the first, we don't usually get the movies first, but I think it works.
The first time you guys really, at least for a DCEU movie, anyway. Because usually you guys either get it later or like around the same time as us. So. Yeah,
we get it at the same time, but we don't usually have early screenings unless you're in a huge city, and even then, sometimes if you don't get the tickets as soon as, there aren't such things as early screenings like you guys have that in America.
Yeah, it's weird because like they'll still announce like the official release date as like Friday, December 21st, but like they'll have like screenings, not even like midnight screenings. It's like 6 p.m. the following or like the previous night screenings. And that all goes towards opening day. It's weird because they'll count that towards opening day, and it's weird. Like because obviously opening day is like the evening before now here in the U.S. It's not like opening day is opening day anymore.
Yeah, I mean it's good for you because like you got to watch Batman vs Superman and Man of Steel before I did.
Well, so Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman were a little different for me because so for Man of Steel, Walmart and this was back before like the Thursday night screenings were really before they really took off. So so Walmart had this like fan screening thing where you can buy tickets, and it was the Thursday night before, and it was like an exclusive Walmart ticket only, and I think I've showed these pictures of like the tickets, and it's like one of the Man of Steel posters, but with like the S like carved out in the ticket. It's like really cool, and I still have both of my tickets from me and when my friend went. And it's cool because like the movie starts out with this like message from Zach, and he was just like saying like, "Hope you guys enjoyed the movie," and blah blah blah. It was really cool. And then for Batman v Superman, so a while back I found this website called advancedscreenings.com, which is like for here in the U.S. Like let's say there's like a random website or like a radio show is giving away like free tickets to see the movie early. That like it gives you the links for like all the different contests and stuff going on in your area. So with Batman v Superman, it was like a local news station here like was having a contest, and we and I entered, and I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna win, and then I saw it like I was gonna see the movie on the 22nd instead of the 25th, and I'm like, oh my god, and because this was like a couple of days, so this was like either like the day the critic score came out or like the day before, so critics had already mostly seen it. And so I think it was the day that the Rotten Tomatoes score came out, and all the critics' reviews were coming out. And of course, I'm like, oh, this sucks, because the lowest I saw it right before I saw the movie was like 37%, and then obviously now it's at like a 27% on Rotten Tomatoes. And then I walk out of Batman v Superman going like, oh my god, like I loved that, like I don't understand why the critics like didn't enjoy it. Like
I remember you saying that. We were still very active on Tumblr then, weren't we?
We were, yeah.
We were still you know, mentoring this
generation.
Positivity tag. Yeah.
It's funny, yeah, because for those of you who don't know, like Batman and I, like back when like I was back when I first really started like being active on Tumblr, like back then it wasn't even the DCEU fandom, it was the Man of Steel fandom. Was only I would say like maybe like it was like 20 people at most at the time.
Yeah.
It was a very like if our post got more than like a couple hundred notes, like it blew up. That was like how big like it was at the time. So of course like as Batman v Superman got closer, like more people joined the fandom and more people like appreciated Man of Steel, and then Batman v Superman came out, the fandom kind of blew up, and like yeah, so like and as the years went on, like the fandom got bigger, and like we like obviously weren't like big. I mean, obviously like those of us who were like OG like Man of Steel fandom are still there, and we'll still interact. But it's a different experience in the fandom on Tumblr now because it's not just us anymore. Like it's like hundreds, if not thousands, of people.
Yeah, so, which is a great thing. I'm glad that's a thing, because we were struggling because it felt like the minority at the time, and I'm sure even at the time we weren't. It's just that the nature of online social media wasn't the same, and it's changed a lot over the years. But yeah, we're talking about the advanced screenings. I don't think we have that much, or maybe I'm just searching in the wrong areas online, or I'm not writing the right keywords. But yeah, it's great to see that they've adopted this method. I mean, I thought it was December 14th that it was going to be released, because that's what the initial Google search said. But a friend on Twitter actually said it was the 12th, and I was like, whoa, yes, brilliant, 2 more days earlier. So yeah, the whole. Oh, and another thing, I give zero attention to what, Rotten Tomatoes or what certain critics say, and I know who to trust. Like, I've got friends who review movies, and I'm like, yeah, okay, we have similar taste, and I know that you won't look at a movie and criticize it in a biased way. So if you have a criticism, you have a genuine issue with it, and I understand where you're coming from, but I don't think I will still base whether I watch a movie or not based on what you say. If you get what I mean. Mm-hmm. I'll take it into consideration, and I'll actively seek out certain people's views and opinions on movies, because we have similar, viewpoints and similar approaches to enjoying movies. So that's all right. Very rarely would I decide not to go to a movie because of someone else's opinion, but I think that should be more adopted throughout everyone's movie experience, because you never know the gem that you find because you listened to some critic who slept halfway through the movie and decided that he was going to write a bad article because you can get more clicks out of it. But
and that's the thing. Like, as DCEU fans, like, we've adopted that idea for a while, but it's just I just wish that more people would trust their own judgment before that. I mean, granted, if you have people who have similar taste than you, or something similar taste as you, then yeah, that's okay. But as far as relying on so many people before you even make your own opinion based on something, that's okay. Well, I understand if you don't want to spend your money on a bad movie or something, because movies aren't exactly cheap. I understand that, but at the same time, if it's something you're genuinely looking forward to, at least give it a shot. Let you have your own opinion first before you being okay, well, I just give up on this. Because you never know, critics, exactly with Batman v Superman, critics destroyed it, and a lot of people want to call it one of the worst superhero movies. The Ultimate Edition, I think, and I'm not saying this because I'm biased, this is my honest opinion, I think it is one of the best movies ever made. And I'm not just saying that as a DCEU fan, I'm not just saying that because I like Zack Snyder, I'm honestly saying that from the honest part of my gut and my heart, that's how I honestly feel. Same thing with Man of Steel. I think it's just, very similarly up on that pedestal. I still enjoy Batman v Superman a little more, but I still love Man of Steel to death, don't get me wrong. But of course, for me, that's just my personal taste. Everyone's taste is going to be different, so just, in general, I just, my word to the people out there is just, if there's something that you're looking forward to seeing, don't let others dictate how you're going to feel about it. See it for yourself. If you don't like it, that's fine, that's fair, but don't rely on the opinions of others to form your own. Just experience it for yourself. Let you experience your own emotions and your thoughts and your own opinions, and then decide whether or not okay, I don't want to watch this, or maybe I do want to watch more of this. It's
Yeah, I have quite a few movies that I regret not seeing in the cinema, and I don't think they were necessarily from taking someone else's opinion, but out of sheer laziness. But movies are awesome, and this movie in particular, I think you should definitely go watch it, because it's a movie that needs a big screen. And I know that the actors have been saying it, but I don't see how it could really I'd still enjoy it at home on my TV. Don't get me wrong, I'd probably watch it at least 10 more times before this year finishes. But you definitely need to at least watch it on the big screen, because it's worth it. 100%. Even matinee price. I'm not even saying go IMAX. I'm treating myself post-exams with IMAX viewing. But even matinee, definitely go watch it.
Yeah. So, if you can like briefly like sum up your thoughts, like what would you say to those who are excited for the movie who haven't seen it yet and want to see it? Like, what would you say to them about your thoughts on the movie?
Any previous misconceptions that you've had from the DCEU in terms of the latest installment, I think you should just like forget about that and go into this movie and thoroughly have no what are they called? Don't have any fears about this movie, because it's worth the time that you put in, and you find yourself emotionally connecting to these characters. You find yourself looking at these beautiful visuals and these beautiful shots and scenes that you get lost in, and it's a whole new world. And I'm thankful for the decisions previously made by amazing directors that we love, Zack Snyder, and I'm thankful for the amazing director that we have now, who's worked so hard on this movie, and it's so evident because it's just a beautiful and wonderful and mesmerizing movie to watch, and it gets better and better every time you see it. I hope this is a concise enough review.
Okay, well, thank you for doing this podcast with me today, Fatma. Like, I know obviously there's a lot more you want to talk about, but because I haven't seen it, obviously, like, we aren't going to go into full spoilers. At some point, for everyone listening, at some point in the next couple weeks, we'll try to get everyone together to do like a full-on spoiler discussion of the movie. Right now, because this movie comes out right before the holidays or in the midst of the holiday season, our schedules are going to be a little hectic, so we'll try to get it out soon. If not, you'll definitely have my review in the next couple of days, because I see the movie tomorrow night. So I'll do a spoiler and a non-spoiler. But then, like, for the podcast itself, we'll do one eventually. I can't guarantee a date when. But Fatma, seriously, thank you. This was a lot of fun.
I love doing this.
I wish I could see the movie so we could talk more about it. A couple more days. But thank you, and if, well, like I said, or like we said earlier, we'll leave a link for Fatma's social media down below. Thank you again, Fatma, and if you want to go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you, or to say bye, whatever you want to do.
Well, you have my links in the description box, and I'm Fatma, and I'm glad I did this today with Nick, and till the next one.
All right, and to everyone listening, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.